Welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead. My name is Kelly, and on my channel I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. Lots of different reasons for that, but I want to share with you some of the things that I do to keep a lot of nutrition and health in my house for me, for my family, including my dogs. I think it is growing increasingly more important for everybody to be at least a little bit self-sufficient and not rely so much on the grocery store and the government. So if you can learn to do things yourself, growing things, preparing things, and preserving things, I think we would all be a little bit better off and less stressed. So today is going to be a simple video, but it's one that I've really been looking forward to doing. I love carbonated beverages, especially in the summer. I love them. I absolutely detest soda. I do not like the taste of it. I do not like the way that it feels in my mouth or the coat that it leaves on my tongue. I hate soda, but I love carbonation. So I love making kombucha. Kombucha is a fermented beverage, and the bacteria in the ferment is really healthy for your gut. And let's face it, or if you didn't know, your gut is your immune system. So if you feed your gut and your gut stays happy, not only will you feel better because the things that you put into your body will come out when and how they are supposed to, but you're also boosting your overall immune system too. So kombucha is simple to make. I bought my first SCOBY, which you need in kombucha, on Amazon. And since then, my SCOBYs have grown, and I have freeze-dried them, and I have given them away to friends and family. And I'm about ready to do another division in this video as well. So currently, I have 2-gallon containers that I use for kombucha, and I'm gonna bump that up to 3 today. So we're gonna do a recipe times 3. The first thing you're gonna need to do is make some tea. Kombucha likes black tea. I know that there's a way you can do it with green tea. It is a little bit different, but it does feed on the caffeine in the black tea, as well as the sugar that you're gonna put into it. Yes, this does have sugar in it, but the bacteria in the ferment is actually eating the sugar, and that's what's causing the carbonation. So we are going to be putting a cup of sugar per batch into this recipe, but we're not going to be consuming a cup of sugar when we consume this whole batch of kombucha. It is a healthy beverage for you. For each batch, and I'm doing 3, you're going to start with 2 cups of water, and you're going to use 8 black tea bags to brew tea. So I have 24 tea bags, and I'm going to use 6 cups of water. This is filtered water. That's important. You don't want to use tap water if you have fluoride or chlorine in your tap, because you don't want to hurt the bacteria that are in the kombucha. So I emptied this out of my Berkey earlier today, mainly so that I knew I had enough water in my Berkey to cover all 3 of these batches. So this is 4 cups. But you can use bottled water, or if you live on, if you have a well and you know your water is good, you can use well waters as well. All right, 2 more cups. All right, that's 6 cups of water. And I'll go ahead and get that water going while I take my tea bags out of their little jackets here. So I like to just take them out and line them up about 8 at a time. This is just Lipton. This is what I have on hand today. This is what I'm using. It's just Lipton black tea. All right, so that is 8 tea bags, and I've got all the little tags up here and the bags down here. So I'm just gonna pull those tags off. They come off real easy, and I'm gonna knot these together at the end, putting the knot as close to the end of the rope as I can. And now I know all of those are gonna stay together. It's gonna be really easy to fish them out of that pan of boiling water. Oh, now I have 3 bundles here that are going to be super easy to take out of this water. I'm going to just put those in there And I'm going to put just enough to where the knots are outside of the rim of the pan and put the lid on. And that's going to hold them in there with the strings on the outside so I can easily pick those up. All right, I've got all of my tea bags in here, and when this comes up to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and turn the water off and just let these steep for 10 minutes. I'm going to put the lid on just to help it heat up a little bit faster and to keep these secure on the side of the pan. All right, let's take a look here. I'm going to grab the string so I don't lose them. Yeah, we're just coming up to a boil here, so this is fine. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. And now I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. So 10 minutes, here we go. That's our 10-minute timer. So this is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and take the lid off. And I'm going to take these tea bags, but I'm just going to wrap it. Well, I'm going to lift them out of the liquid as much as I can. And then wrap this around the handle. I don't know if it's going to stay with this weight on here, the weight of the wet tea bags, but let's see. Okay, we look good. So those tea bags are not in the water. They're resting on the side. I've used the little hole here in the handle to wrap it around and then stuck the end of the string through that hole. That's going to allow the tea bags to drip naturally. We don't want to squeeze them. We don't want to get the tea leaves through the softened bags into the tea. And I'm going to add 3 cups of sugar because this is a triple batch. That's 1. There's 2. And 3. I'm going to use a wooden spoon to stir that around to get that sugar melted in. Now I am just going to let that sit for probably a good hour, maybe even an hour and a half. I want this to come down to room temperature because I don't want to burn my scobies. So we're just going to let it do its thing here. These tea bags will continue to drip into the tea. Then I can compost those tea bags, and then we will move on to the next step. All right, it's been about an hour. I have taken my tea bags out, and this tea is now lukewarm. It's fine to use. So I have my 2 existing kombucha jars, and you can see that the scobies in here are pretty thick. It has many, many layers all through here. So this is the one I'm going to be separating today. This one is a pretty thick SCOBY as well, just not quite as thick. And I'm going to be adding one to this jar so we can start a whole new brew. Now, normally, historically, how I do this is I will make the tea and then I will brew a 1 week and a 2 week. So I think I'm going to do the 1 week and I'll do 2 weeks. So what that means is when I divide this tea into these 3 jars, I'm going to fill the rest up with water with the SCOBY in there, and then it's going to go in a cool, dry, dark place, which is the corner under my cabinets over here, out of direct sunlight for 1 week and for 2 weeks. I like mine stronger, it's almost a little bit vinegary at that point, but I like it that way. So that's the first ferment. So the SCOBYs in here are going to be feeding on the caffeine and the sugar in the tea over the course of that week or 2. And then we're going to go for the second brew. During the second brew, we will pour it into jars. And historically, what I would do is I would put bits of freeze-dried fruit in the jars themselves and then pour in the kombucha tea. But this week, we're trying out my new powdered down fruits. I am so thrilled about this. So I have peach, lime, ginger, which that is my favorite combination. I also have strawberries, so we'll probably do some strawberries as well. And then I have some older, but still perfectly fine. I have some different types of fruits too. So I'll probably mix it up and make a bunch of different kinds. But again, that won't happen for 1 to 2 weeks. but we are going to get started just on making this. So I always keep mine covered in a cheesecloth with a rubber band around it to keep the fungus gnats out. Don't always have fungus gnats, but they love this stuff. So if you do get them, you'll want to keep this covered. And right now I do have a few fungus gnats in my house. I don't know where they came from. I didn't get any from the garden this year, but they're back. So I've got a trap set for them, and we're hoping that they're gonna go away soon. I'm going to be using a wooden spoon to stir up what is in here, not a metal spoon. The metal reacts with the scobies. So you want to make sure that you use a wooden spoon. You want to make sure that your hands are clean, and you don't want to wash them with an antibacterial soap because that could kill the good bacteria that is in your kombucha. All right, I'm just going to fish one of these out, or this big thing out. It is thick. Oh, and it feels a little weird, not gross at all, just different. So there is my SCOBY. It looks like a great big layered cake. And I am just going to peel some of these layers away and split this into two, just like this. And now this is going to be my SCOBY for this jar, and this can go back in. Now, you'll also notice that there is some liquid at the bottom of these jars. If you're new to making kombucha, and if you're watching this video, you probably are, you want to make sure that you leave about 2 cups of the tea in your jar at all times so that your SCOBY is submerged underneath the liquid. That's the only rule in between your batches, is to just make sure your SCOBY doesn't dry out. So this one is there's no tea in here. So that's one of the reasons I'm going to let this one go for 2 weeks. But for now, I'm just going to divide this amongst the 3 jars. I've got some more filtered water here. Since it is lukewarm, I'm going to go ahead and just add some more water to it to make sure that it is fully cooled down. And then I'm just going to pour it in, and I'm just going to eyeball it. You can measure it. It should be 2 cups of tea that you add to each jar, but it's a little bit more than that because we added all the sugar. So I am just going to eyeball that. And I can see that there is some sugar on the bottom here that has really settled down, and those SCOBYs need that sugar. So I'm going to stir this back up a bit. So I'm going to put a pause on this. I have to heat this back up because they kind of broke up into chunks from the bottom of the pan. So give me a minute here. I'm going to heat this back up and see if I can melt those back down and divide what's left in here evenly among the 3 jars. It's pieces now. It's like, ooh, it's like candied pieces now. So I'm going to see if I can melt those down. That's going to make this hot again. So I'm going to be adding some more cold water to it as soon as these melt down. And I will immediately pour that into a measuring cup and then equally divide it so they all have the same amount of sugar in them to feed the SCOBYs. So let me get my measuring cup. I'm also going to need a cheesecloth for the top of this and a rubber band. All right, I've got a used piece of clean cheesecloth that I'm going to put over the top of this jar, and I'm just going to secure that with a rubber band around the rim. And now no bugs can get into these. This is starting to set little tiny bubbles. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Everything has melted and blended back in. And now I'm going to pour some room temperature water in here because I don't have cold water available in the fridge. That's fine. That's a fine temperature. That was unfortunate that that happened, but you know, that happens in the kitchen sometimes. So now I've got a 4-cup measuring cup. It's actually 5 if I go all the way to the top of the rim, but let's see how much we have in here. All right, I filled it to the 4 mark. So I'm going to start with 1 cup per jar. There's 1. 2. 3. And let's see how much more we have. I'm just going to pour it in here. That is 3.5 cups. So I'm going to put another cup per. And then just a little over pour. All right, so they should all have about the same amount of food in here now for the scobies. And now all I have to do is fill these the rest of the way up with filtered water. That's coming up just to about the shoulder of the jar, and that's perfect. So I'm actually gonna get my wooden spoon in here and stir it up. It's probably time I take apart this SCOBY too and get some probably freeze dried. Since I've already given a lot of SCOBY away, I don't know anybody else who wants one. But if you want to start kombucha, you might know somebody who's already doing it and who needs to peel off some SCOBY, and they'd probably be happy to give it to you. Otherwise, you can buy it like I did on Amazon or maybe even at a health food store. I need more water. I'm giving this one about 1.5 inches of headspace. You do want some headspace in there. Because it is going to be, coming up a little bit as it ferments. So we've got 2 done, 1 to go. And I need just a little bit more water. Last jar. All right, that is also just to the shoulder of the jar. I'm going to give everything one last stir. And 1 more. All right, that is the end of step 2. Step 1 was making the tea. Step 2 is the first ferment. And so I will see you back here in 1 week for step 3, which is the start of the second ferment. And that only takes 3 days. And then we'll have step 4, which is actually opening the individual bottles that have been flavored and 3-day fermented for an amazing carbonated beverage. So I'll see you back here in 1 week. Just over a week, and we are back getting ready to do this kombucha. So what I've got, first of all, I've got some flavors here, and I'll show you those. And I've also got some bottles. I'm going to start with 5 bottles. These are clean and ready to go. I have 2 different kinds. I have a wider mouth jar here that has a like a rubber sleeve on it. And then I also have the swing top bottle kind here as well. By using both different jars, this allows me to know what flavors are in what jar. I could also write on the bottles with a Sharpie, because you can write on glass with a Sharpie. I do it with my canning jars all the time. The writing will stay on there until you use soap and water and a little sponge or something to take it off. I have a funnel here, and this is what I will use in each jar to get the flavors in there as well as the kombucha. Normally, what I do is I put pieces of fruit in here. You can make kombucha with fruit juice or with canned fruit. I prefer to use my freeze-dried fruits because I'm not adding a whole bunch of extra sugar. The sugar in the fruit is enough to feed the bacteria in the kombucha and get it to ferment enough to cause carbonation. I don't want all the extra additives that are a lot of times found in juice. Plus, juice is really expensive. I freeze dry all the time anyway, so that's what I like to use. But today, I'm trying my freeze-dried powders for the first time, and I'm really excited about that. So all I'm going to do here is pour some of this kombucha into a measuring cup that I can pour through the funnel and into the jars. and my SCOBY has risen up a little bit. And every time you make a brew, you're adding another very thin layer to your kombucha. So the kombucha has also grown. That's why we left the headspace at the top of the jar. You definitely want to stir it before you pour your kombucha off, because a lot of the good bacteria settles towards the bottom. And you don't want to use a metal spoon because metal can interfere with the growth of your SCOBY. So I'm just giving it a good stir. And I can smell, it smells good. It smells sweet. Remember, this is just black tea with sugar and a SCOBY in it. It smells really good. So I'm just gonna pour some of this off into my measuring cup. And you can take the SCOBY out to do this. I just typically leave mine in. And I'm gonna fill up as many of these jarred containers as I can, making sure that I leave enough tea in here to keep the SCOBY covered. All right, next step, just gonna put this over the top. Next step is to add some flavors to my jar. So I think I will make mine in these taller, skinnier bottles. They're about the same volume. And I'm gonna do my peach, lime, and ginger. Now, this is the first time I'm using powder, so I'm not exactly sure what ratio or how much of each powder I should be using, but I do, I can already, yeah, that is pungent. And this is the lime. The ginger is really pungent. We've cooked with the lime already. That is really pungent. And the peach I've tasted and it is really delicious. I'm not going to need much. So let me use an actual measuring spoon. I was debating there about between a quarter and a half. So I think what I'm going to do, and this is a trial run, I'm only going to be making the kombucha from this jar. I'm going to let my other 2 jars go for another week. So this is a quarter teaspoon. I'm going to do a quarter teaspoon of the lime and the ginger. And honestly, that might be too much, but I'll know in 3 days. This is the second ferment. In my house, with the humidity and the temperature in here, my second ferment takes 3 days. So these will be ready to drink in 3 days, at which point they'll go in the refrigerator. And I'm going to use a half of a teaspoon of the peach. Usually when I make the peach ginger lime combination, again, I'm usually using whole ingredients, not powdered down, but it tastes like ginger beer. It's really, really good. And then I am just going to pour the kombucha into the bottle that has the powder on the bottom. And I'm going to go up to the shoulder on this jar because it is going to need space to ferment without bubbling over. And that's it for that one. I'm going to go ahead and cap that. And he's just going to go on the shelf for 3 days, and then he will be ready to drink or go into the refrigerator. And he'll be good in the refrigerator for a couple of weeks. Not going to last that long, though. Be drinking way before then. So again, this is my test batch. So I'm only doing a couple. I want to kind of perfect the ratios of the powdered product. All right, that one can use a little more. Get this stirred up again. Everything is settled back down to the bottom. So that's a total of 8 cups that I've poured off of this so far. And that's about good there. And for this, I'll go ahead and take this off so you can see, but I'm just going to put powder in here as well. I'm just going to do strawberry on these, whatever's left. Again, just a test run. And I will use my half teaspoon. Okay. I'm going to do a full teaspoon on this. And that would make all the jars have a total of a full teaspoon of powder in them. So that's 1. So this will be nice because there's absolutely nothing to strain, and yet it's 100% fruit. And whole fruit as well. So you've got all the fiber in there that you don't get when you use juice. Just going to pour it up to the shoulders. All right, I'm going to leave this much kombucha in there, which looks really like a fine amount to keep my scobies covered. And I will now just put this back on my counter, and then at the 3-day mark, when these are ready to go into the refrigerator or be consumed, I will start brewing another one. So we will just have kombucha going for the whole summer. And these all of these bottles I just got on Amazon. I can see in there to see where the shoulders are, but I'll lower that so you can as well. And I should be able to get at least one more, so I am going to grab one more bottle. That looks great. Now this one, the powder is just kind of sitting at the top, so I'm going to go ahead and mix it up just a little. Okay, perfect. Now there's still a little bit left in here, so I will dump this back into my main jar. But that was 6 bottles of kombucha off of 1 gallon of kombucha tea. And these powders are working marvelously. You can see that all of the powder in here is loose. It is not clumpy. It is 100% dry from being freeze dried. So I am absolutely thrilled with how these turned out. And I am so excited to be able to use these for kombucha and whatever else. I know I'm going to be making a strawberry vinaigrette here soon. Stay tuned for that. I've recently used my ginger powder and my lime powder in some of my Tuesday cooking videos. And I actually, let me grab the powders I just packaged up for my friend. So this is something I've put together, and I am going to be dropping off to a friend this week. He did me a favor, and I wanted to say thank you. So he is a budding mixologist, and just got into a new hobby. So he is currently making different types of drink, like exotic, just different types of drinks. And I had a thought that since I powdered all of the fruits down for this, why not do a bar set for him or a baker set for somebody who's a baker? This would make a phenomenal Christmas gift, Mother's Day gift, whatever, birthday gift. So I have ginger, peach, blackberry. Now these I freeze dried last year and they powdered down beautifully. Lime, strawberry, watermelon. Okay, so these I did last summer, and this jar is all I had left of the freeze-dried fruit. Powdered it down. I'm giving it to him. I will absolutely be doing more watermelon. This tastes amazing. I'm sure he can do something really creative with that. Raspberry, pineapple. This is a really good one too. Pear. Have you freeze-dried pears? They are so good. Blueberry, pineapple mango, and mango. Mangoes are another one of my favorite. These are absolutely delicious freeze-dried as snacks, just the fruit. So I thought, what a cute little gift. He can start making his own kombuchas. He can use these in his mixology. He also enjoys desserts, so he can use these in baking. But how cute is that? A little set of 12 different freeze-dried fruits. Okay, I will see you back here in 3 days where we will finish the video by trying some of these kombuchas. We are back at the 3-day mark to try out this kombucha. But before we get started, I wanted to introduce a special guest. I mentioned that I had family coming this week. They're actually here for 10 days, and it is my niece and her family. I'd like to introduce you to Amanda.
Hello.
Amanda is my niece. She lives out of state in Colorado, and you actually have your own photography business.
I do.
Amanda Marie's Photography.
Yes.
And Amanda actually does the majority of my thumbnails because she's very talented and gifted. And she's actually created this thumbnail for me today 100% herself. Usually I take the photos, I send them to her, and she tries like heck to make them look better than they actually are because I took them. Today's thumbnail is top notch. I'm trying to convince her to move here, to live near me so that we can do this together. But I'm just enjoying having you while you're here.
It's been so much fun.
All right, so we're excited to taste this kombucha. I'm gonna let Amanda taste the strawberry.
Yes.
So this is after the 3-day ferment, and we can see that there are some bubbles at the top, and this is gonna go in the fridge at this point. It will continue to ferment in the refrigerator, but at a much, much slower rate. So we're just gonna top you off. She wants to make sure she doesn't get any extras in there, but that's gonna be hard. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, well, what was unexpected is the powder kind of turned into its own little SCOBY in there. And then we have the peach lime ginger. Also has a little bit of a SCOBY on top. You want to taste this one instead? It's clearer.
Well, I want to taste them both.
Okay,
yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
that's really good.
That's good. I don't know. I kind of want both.
This one's my favorite. Now, doesn't this taste like a ginger beer?
Oh, that's good too.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
They're delicious.
Wow.
But not only are they delicious, but they're so healthy for you. They're full of the good yeast and the good bacteria that your gut needs to be healthy. And like I mentioned earlier, your gut is your immune system. Wow. So if you treat your gut well, you'll have a healthy, happy life. Thank you so much for joining me again this week in my kitchen. My name is Kelly. You are at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.